Hello, everybody. Sorry, I was actually just going and grabbing a glass of water. So we are back yet again with another conversation with, and today we have Jorge Vigara here from AnimaWarrior. If you were with us last night, you would have heard us talk a little bit about that. Lots to talk about today for a variety of reasons. Jorge's got a long background in animation, and he now runs AnimaWarriors. So it fits in tidily with a lot of the conversations we've been having lately. This idea of diversification and building a brand, and so it's sort of like, well, I guess we're going to see that kind of conversation continue today. So I'm going to bring on David, as I usually do, and we'll bring in okay. Hello.
Hey, Brent.
How late was I? I thought I was counting as I was getting a glass of water, thinking I was going to get back in time. Was it like only a couple seconds short, or what?
I would say it was a 6 seconds that felt like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Good. So this was actually all planned. I was just trying to build some suspense for today's show. Did it work?
Because I mean, on my side, I have no idea if you're either drinking a glass of water or you just fainted out of excitement for having our guest today. So
it could have happened. It's true.
Could have went both ways. I'm glad it was for the best.
Roll the dice, but I came back, so here I am. We have Jorge on today, which is really cool. I mean, do you want to say something before we bring him on, or we want to just sort of usher him in?
I mean, we had him at the 24-hour challenge. That was already a great conversation, and I remember back then that we're like, okay, we absolutely need. Eventually, we might do a weekly, thing, and we definitely want to have him again. So I'm glad that he accepted the invitation. And there's there are so many elements in his background and current situation that is so in sync with a lot of the discussion and the question that we have from chat and people in the industry right now of going through the process of being a professional artist, going through a lot of different experience and deciding at some point what's next. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Let's do it. Here he comes. Ready? Here we go. Mr. Jorge Vigara himself. Boom. Hello.
Hi.
That's the best I got. I don't have like any fancy explosion effects or something like that. So I just do boom every once in a while.
Boom, like that. No, I like it. I was really enjoying seeing the two of you guys talking
about you.
Yes, it's like okay, like.
And you can't defend yourself because you're back there. You got no mic.
I was actually wondering, does that happen to everybody who is in the background waiting? Like, is okay, they're saying good things in the back. It's like, okay, how am I supposed now to show up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, that's a great idea. We should do an edit of all the videos, those 1 minute of everyone waiting as we're talking
awkwardly,
about them.
Yeah. What
awkwardly,
like, yeah. It'd be even better if we actually could cut your sound so you have no idea what we're saying, and then we just bring you in and be like, hi, we're all laughing like we were making big jokes. You have no idea what the hell the joke was. You're just like, haha, yeah. Oh man, that'd be good.
We should do that. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't like what they do in the sex shows where the people do like talent shows and they're in the background. People.
Yeah. That's it. We should have like a special Yeti ready cam. Yeah, exactly. We could put it up in the corner. It's like here we have Jorge in the background. He doesn't know we have a camera on him, but there he is.
Just trenching.
Yeah.
We like to start those with a quick recap of your background. So for those that might not be familiar with yourself. So we as I said, those an hour and a half goes super fast. So we try to not go into a 20 minutes detail of your glorious career. What would be the 2 to 5 short version of it from the moment that you decided to, this might be something I want to do in life to where you are today?
Whew. Well, before anything, first, let me thank you guys for letting me be here.
Of course.
I didn't have the opportunity to say it before, even in the background. So thank you for that. Summing things up, I guess I would start. I've been telling this story so many times that I always try to make it not so boring. But I guess that I started this career of animation not really wanting or looking to be like an animator. Animation came out of nowhere, and luckily for myself, I studied on animation in a studio where there was a couple of animators back then that had a lot of experience that mentored me and a few other peoples back then. So I was lucky back then to experience a little bit of classic mentorship, through just working and being part of a show and by the kindness of somebody just, hey, come here, you're doing things very bad. Let me show you how to do things properly. And I did that, for like more or less like 10 years around Europe, working in different studios, different shows, different formats, till I finally came to Vancouver. And that was for Sony Pictures, and that was when I started to question things and to burn out a little bit and to start to pay attention to different aspects of the profession in animation, like people, not so much about the projects itself of the creative aspects, but more the people, the conditions that it comes with it. And little by little, I started to step away from it, doing different kind of things. I go into studying some other stuff. Till I recently, like 3 years ago, I decided to say, okay, I think my time is to do something else, look for new projects and create something that is more aligned to my vision. Before that, I have to say I was very lucky. I had the opportunity to explore different projects here and there. I went back to Spain to do some VR with friends. I came back to Vancouver to help Stellar Creative Lab. I don't know if you guys heard of them, but now they're like booming out there. They just released this trailer from the Marvel What If, and it's fantastic to see how they are. Yeah, just in 3-4 years, they just boom, they're doing all that. So I helped them to create that studio, and I explored different other studios. So it was a nice kind of like research in the meanwhile I was creating the setting up for AnimaWarriors, and then 3 years ago I said, okay, this is the time to launch things. I have to say I didn't do it like, it wasn't called AnimaWarriors at the very beginning. I was more narcissistic, so it was my name, Jorge Vigara.
Narcissistic or lazy, which will maybe a little bit of both.
No. I'm
fully narcissistic.
It's purely narcissistic.
That's awesome. It's interesting because, as you mentioned, you didn't necessarily choose animation. It's almost like it's something that that happened. I remember even myself when I got out of school, I was hired by a studio here in Montreal called iStorm that hired me as a lighting artist because, I had decent lighting stuff in my showreel, and this is what they needed. And the Monday morning I was about to start, the phone is ringing, and they're basically telling me, "Don't bother, we're actually closing down the studio." Literally the same day, I called a friend that was working at the other studio and said, "Yeah, come pass." And they needed animators, so I just was hired as an animator and became an animator. So that's kind of.
So David, there's a part of the story I don't understand. So what was ringing?
Oh, the phone.
What?
I know. This thing that used to be attached on the wall, and there was a wire that you could, and people would think.
I don't know such things. I don't know. I went to a museum once and I saw one. I'm just kidding.
So thank you for putting back on my radar that maybe a lot of the audience are not familiar.
We are old.
That's awesome.
With it. But so how is it with you, George? At the very, very beginning, is it something that you fell in love with? Is that something that you just did until eventually how was the early beginning of young Jorge working in animation?
To be honest, I needed a job, like desperately. I don't want to get too much into drama stuff, but I was having basically problems in my family home. So I needed a work, and I needed to do something, to find something somewhere. And somehow this happened even before I finished my school studies. I was a student in this school. It was like a private studies, and 6 months before I was like in a personal crisis there. Like, okay, I need to get out of my house, and I need to find a job. And then I went to my school. I saw a posting, and the nice job post. This is another thing like it used to happen before, not anymore. Like a physical cord with papers on it, and they were looking for a junior. And it all happened within days. So I can say that basically, because of my personal situation, animation saved a little bit my life, because I needed to get out of my house, and so I moved into a new place, new job, first job. I think it was within 2 weeks, something like that. Like boom.
Yeah.
So I got into that job because I needed it, and I was working. I was like.
Did you have any idea of what you were getting yourself into?
No idea. Of course, no idea. I have no idea. My first job I didn't know. First job interview that I had related to the industry. My dream was to be a director, and sometimes I have that.
It's still there. It's still somewhere.
It's still there. I'm exploring the way to do it, but. Studying a direction was very expensive. It's still very expensive. With the times that we live, it's a little bit more affordable, I believe. But back then, my belief it was, I don't know, for a Spanish family, like 60,000, in my family that not necessarily had a lot of money. So I went into a study like graphic design and digital production or digital creativity, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I had a little bit of animation. So my experience doing animation was very limited. And all I have in my head, and I'm sure we can talk about this for hours, was the how to do background videos from Pixar's and DreamWorks back then, that was putting everything like it was like a beautiful kind of like thing to do. So I was expecting something like that. Never came, but that's what a little bit like what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And
assuming that you had a fairly successful career and became by industry standard became a really good animator at the highest level, starting from barely knowing what you were doing at first. Do you have some of those moments that you realize that, oh, I'm becoming better? Oh, now I think I'm actually good. Oh, I think I'm actually really good. Do you have some of those moments that you remember, and what made you get to those different milestones?
I think it was the capacity of having fun. That was the moment. I don't know if you experienced that. I didn't have fun. I don't know if you guys have done it, but I didn't have fun in my first 7, 8 years of career. It was still a struggle.
Yeah. Sorry, I was muted. What was that like in your mind? Like, why did you isolate exactly what was causing the lack of fun?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of part of it. There was a lot of ambition, like trying to be good and become better, comparing myself to others.
Okay.
So I remember myself being in a position of trying to cruzar el charco in Spanish, that is to cross the seas and become a Hollywood animator or something. So I was really putting myself into the pressure of doing that as soon as possible, right? And that was not fun. I mean, even though I appreciate that, somehow that pressure that I put into me,
right,
is what helped me to be now in the position that I am today. Back then, I remember like the pain and the suffering and So then one. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying, just because you had your eye was on the prize, and you kind of forgot to stop and smell the roses a bit, right? Like you just were, instead of enjoying the process and the craft, you were focused and like single-minded on a goal, and that's kind of sucked the fun out of it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And do you feel that you were actually improving faster when you started to enjoy the process? Is there a correlation between the fun and the improvement?
Actually, what I think that happened is that I stopped paying attention to how much I was improving, because that was my focus. My focus for the first few years was to improve, get good at, get recognized, get my, looking at how many people was looking at my reel. 2,000, 3,000 people. Yeah. No, I realized that wasn't helping. So the thing that what I did was to start to enjoy, to have fun. That was the big moment that I remember myself. I was starting to work on Popeye, in the short film of Popeye at Sony. We just finished Hotel T1 and another couple of shows. And that was when I was starting to crash down, like running into not being happy and realizing about how things that I was doing bad in the way that I was, or how the compass that I was using in my life was not great. So in my profession, the way I readjusted was deciding to use everything, all my skills, to have fun. So that was the change. The change was, now that I can have fun and to decide to start paying attention to what other things, is when I started to realize at the same time that people was liking my work in a different way. and also I could do the things that really I was looking forward to do.
As opposed to things you felt that you had to do, you were doing things that you wanted to do, animation-wise. I'm curious.
Yes.
Hopefully you don't mind me digging into this a little bit more, because I find it particularly interesting and very valuable for the people that are listening. This epiphany that you had, like, what did that look like? And like, because it sounds like the version of the story that I hear now is that you were grinding yourself into a pulp because you were focused on being like the best, and that's what you were doing. And you were probably overworking yourself. You probably weren't giving yourself enough rest. You probably weren't giving yourself enough latitude to just actually enjoy everything. You were just so focused. And then you had started feeling a bit of a crash. Like you started to have doubt, and you started to wonder, you probably were not feeling so great about all that, and you were probably tired. And I'm just curious how you made the connection that seemed to save your love for animation to go from that sort of steel focus to suddenly, like, you switched. Like, what was the, like, how did you bridge that? Like, what went off in your head that said, oh, I just need to let go of these things, or I need to do things differently, I need to work somewhere else? I'm curious what it was.
Well, I wish I could say it was one thing, and one morning that I woke up and I said,
sure. Damn it. Here I was thinking you had the secret of life in your bottle.
I'm a different person. Or I took a pill or something.
I'll have to bark up another tree, I guess, for that answer.
If you find somebody who knows how to approach those kind of epiphanies faster, please let me know.
Yeah.
To do that story.
Yeah.
No, I guess that I did therapy. I had to run into therapy. Well, firstly, I got introduced into meditation and relaxation techniques.
Interesting.
Which is something that we teach a lot, and actually myself, I'm starting to become a therapist one day. But that was something that helped me a lot. Therapy, meditation, relaxation techniques, and the everyday of putting myself in the grinder, and to heal the shit that was making me. Can I say those kind of words?
You sure can.
Because I'm Spanish. I'm full of those.
Exactly. Yeah, the English swear words are just like me saying, poop. Like when I moved to Montreal, it was really funny because I'll never forget the first day that I was actually invited. It was actually Rick Arroyo, actually. I was invited to his house, his mom's house. His mom was going to cook for a bunch of us, right? And we're hanging around this table. It was a whole pile of us because we were all from like the same animation team. And I remember at one point, there was somebody, I can't remember, it was probably Marco or somebody. Someone just started, or Philip, maybe someone was dropping the F-bomb, like left, right, and center. And I just come to thinking, because I was in my early 20s, right? So I'm thinking, like, is mom's cool with this? Like, if I start dropping F-bombs at my table, my mom would not be impressed. And then it was just a weird culture shift that I needed to make. But it's now awkward when I go back home. So I'm used to using the words that I probably wouldn't normally use because they don't mean anything here. And people kind of give me a look like, really, Brent? Like, how's the trailer park that you live in, buddy? Like, what's going on? Oh, sorry.
But that's super interesting, Jorge, to hear that version. And it's almost like once you get the ego out of the way, because the ego wants the approval of others, so you end up not being super original, and you don't really create your own art. You create animation that you think that others will look at and value. So it's almost like you're not really creating what you want to create. You create what you think others will like. And when you just make the mental leap of, you know what, I'm at a point that I'm a good animator, which means that, I have nice poses. I have, I do my in-betweens well. I can polish my animation well. Now let me do what I really want to do and come in. And this is when originality and creativity is growing. And I agree that once you kind of remove this burden from your shoulder and you embrace it, it becomes way more fun. But you need to be open to criticism, and some weird idea or not going to work at all. And you'll be like, all right, well, this one in the garbage, let's start over. Some of them will be gem that people will remember when you say, oh, I did this shot, because they will become memorable because they're original.
Yeah. It's like the same as like talking, and where you have any kind of. To me, actually, creativity is like any kind of relationships. You relate with others through creativity. So be yourself, dude. That's what people say. No, so if you're yourself when you're talking with somebody like us, do the same when you are being creative and when you are doing animation or whatever other kind of art that you do.
Yeah,
that's gonna transpire somehow.
Yeah, I think what make it challenging for professional artists is the structure of, there's a team and there's approval and there's deadline and there's, salaries and there's expectation, and you have all of this and at the beginning when you're at a junior level, it can be, frightening or a little bit oppressing to deal with all this. So you just want to, it's, survival mode. It's okay to not be super original. I just want to survive and not be fired. So I'm going to do what I think people will expect me. But over time, you need to get out of this and get out of your comfort zone and say, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to do something that I think is amazing. And I hope that others will find the same.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with just want to touch on this before we move on too far beyond it, but this idea of bringing mindfulness into your life on a regular basis with meditation. It's interesting because it makes sense, right? That's kind of what you needed, because the whole thing about mindfulness is that you need to quiet your mind for at least for a little bit, and so it would almost give your brain space to maybe like the part of your heart could maybe have room to tell the brain, okay, Mr. Ambition, you know what? Like, can I take the wheel for maybe a couple hours? And maybe that was it. Maybe just that. Like, do you see a correlation between the sort of the meditation that you were doing and maybe the beginning of the ascension for you to be back in a more happy, more productive, more creative Jorge? Was that at the beginning?
Yeah, no. So I wish.
No, it came in late.
No. So that's one of the things that I should say is that's why at the same time that I was starting to do meditation and going to different practices, I was also doing therapy and learning about self-therapy.
Okay.
So for the very beginning of first few years, meditation was supporting me. Let's say my purge. Just getting out all the
all the toxic stuff out.
Yes. Because when you meditate and you bring this, which is basically a practice of observation and awareness, you can see, of course, you have the chance to see that beautiful part of yourself that comes out, that heart that speaks out.
Right.
But at least in my experience, what happened is that my heart said, wait a little bit. I think that you have first to work out a little bit with all this crap that you have accumulated.
All this luggage back here.
Yes. So let's start with that, and then I'll happy to jump in once that you pay attention.
Right.
To this.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes.
So it was first getting rid of all that negativity and all those things that were kind of in the way of happiness, and then you could. No, it's interesting.
And then at a certain point, at least in my experience, I started to have the space and the opportunity to enjoy. But it was very interesting because even in creativity and in animation and all that crap that was coming out, even though I did my best to be a good person, even though I was trying to not pay so much attention to those things like the narcissism, my ambition, it still comes out. Unconsciously, it still come out. So thanks to meditation and thanks to the mindfulness and all that, I helped myself to realize about these games that interiorly sometimes the mind plays with you. It's like, oh, you think that you are not self-important, or you think that you are narcissistic? No, you still are. Here goes. And I'm still animating, and throughout those first few years, I'm still animating, thinking, I'm pure-hearted. I'm amazing right now.
Right.
No, dude, you are doing this again with the same reason.
Right. But you got a reflex to catch yourself, which is the important thing. Before, you would just let that sort of spiral and like roll down the mountain like an avalanche, and then that's it, and just took over. Where now you at least had a mechanism to be self-aware enough to realize what you were doing and try to reset yourself and recenter yourself, I guess. Yes,
that's the beauty of the practice of meditation.
I would say one of the impressive thing with meditation when you're starting is that before trying, you have no idea how much things are going on in your head until you sit down, you close your eyes, and you force yourself to think about nothing, which is, for me, was practically impossible for a few months. I was like, how can people think about anything? I was able to think about nothing for like 3 seconds, and then all it would come back. But I agree. This is when you realize, oh, okay, why do I always have those ideas? Why this? And some of it is very constructive and positive. Other things are less so. But it brings awareness of, okay, I need to chill and calm down, and I need to take control of, what we call this monkey mind, because it's chaos in there. It's just mayhem with monkeys throwing shit at each other during the entire day, and I just need to. Now I'm aware of it, and
you have monkeys flinging shit at each other in your head too. It's not just me.
Constantly.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel a lot better. I thought it was
I have gorillas.
Oh, geez. Okay.
I have gorillas. And zebras and elephants.
Got it. That's why you needed industrial style meditation to deal with those industrial size monkeys. I get it. It makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. But Jorge, because you were quite open with the time when you were at Vancouver in the production, and at some point the professional exhaustion that kicked in, and that was after the meditation and after the self-awareness and all that. So there's almost nothing that can prepare or prevent those kind of situations to happen. So, and that's a question that we had often in the last few weeks from our audience is the life work balance, mental health, overtime, how to deal with production that demand crazy hours. So basically, just to get a better idea of how it was for you, what led to this moment, and how did you realize that, oh my God, I think I do have a professional exhaustion, or however you want to call it?
Like, what were the symptoms, sort of? Like what?
Yeah, what led to that, and what symptom made it clear to you that, okay, this is happening, I need to do something about it?
You want me to talk about my tics and those kind of issues that?
You can if you want. If that's not too weird, you can totally talk about that.
Actually, maybe I went in the direction for some time. I was just, at least in the way I started to feel it out, it was having issues with everything in my life. And the problem of it is also is that there is part of the phenomena, at least in what I've been experiencing and learning, is that when you're going through burnout or anxiety or stress, is that it comes with a big unawareness of it. Like something is going on in your life and you don't really know what is going on, but things are starting to crumble down. Like I remember, the first thing that comes to my mind is issues with my partner. For example, I was living with somebody else back then, and things weren't going well, and I started to have some pains in my neck, pains in my head, headaches were starting to be strong, and my body wasn't feeling good. The emotional struggle every day, right? But all this, it comes out like in a cloud of madness, as you guys were saying before. This is all chaotic, no? That's why you sit in meditation, and when you start to observe about it, you start to grasp a little bit of how chaotic that was. So. At least in myself, I start to feel like lots of things are not going good. I don't know why. And luckily for myself, I had a friend back then that he was already doing meditation, and he planted the seed and started to help me to see that, maybe something is going on that I have to start working out in this way. And it wasn't something clear.
Do you feel it was mainly the number of hours at work, or was more the stress and anxiety that was coming from the demand of the project?
I would love to say that it was somebody else's fault. Like this is the industry, this is the system, it's all the fault of the system. But to be honest, myself, I've come to learn that I was also guilty myself. I was the one who put myself in the situation of, because of my life history, because of my condition in my family, how I grew up and all that, I started creating a life that was based, as I was saying at the very beginning, based on ambition, based on fame. So first, I was the first one putting myself all that pressure. So that's a big one. Of course, I don't think that also the industry, and I would even say, but I don't want to get into conspiranoid things. But I'd say that the work system and all that is not fantastic. It's not good. It's not ideal.
It's
to find.
If I might just jump in really quick, what's interesting about this, and I've seen because we see so much burnout in this industry, I feel like it's unfortunate that the actual the unfortunate reality is so many studios are set up to not necessarily consciously, but maybe indirectly are like they are breeding grounds or like outlets for people that are on that kind of curve. That's the problem. Is it because it's like they're if you don't have a good company culture, we talked a little bit about this last night on the Q&A with David. A good company culture should be aware of these kinds of things and see the patterns in their employees and try to curb this idea of workaholism and people that are driving themselves into the ground, because it's not sustainable for the studio, because they'll have a high turnover rate, and it's certainly not sustainable for the individual. And so the problem is, it is a two-sided coin. It is for sure people that are ambitious will put themselves into those positions at those studios. But unfortunately, a lot of the studios are not prepared or not equipped to help curb it and to help support and help make sure that those things don't happen. They're like a vacuum for people that are ambitious, and they're like a black hole. They just get sucked in, and there's nobody that help kick them back out or help regulate it. It's like a perfect storm, unfortunately.
Yeah. And not only that, go.
No, go ahead.
I was just about to say that in that line, what I think is even worse, Brent, is that schools are taking over that philosophy and are starting to apply it to students, and that's one of the things that we're starting to not do in AnimaWarriors. You can see how schools, they even call themselves, or part of the things that the message that they spread is that they're getting students production ready. And we can talk about this for a long time, but basically by getting people production ready means being ready to first to look at how to satisfy the vision of other people, how to understand the system of the industry, and to just to
put
do
your head
what
in
you're
and go.
told,
Yeah.
and to do hours.
Yeah.
They push people to do hours, and they introduce the people to, you have to work a lot and you have to take the effort to. Some students that comes to us, there's a big conversation, the thing of how can I get into an industry that is so demanding.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
and I can also see the perspective from the studio side, because I can imagine that, yes, you want to invest in the well-being of your employees and the work-life balance, and ideally you're going to do that for artists, technician, employees that are going to be there for many years. So all this, you can benefit from it. But the reality, there's a lot of people in our industry are just going from one project to another. I'm not even counting freelancing now in that. So I can also see from the studio side that although it's important, it might not be an urgency, because we're going to put guidelines in place for people that most of them will be in other studios 2 years from now anyway. So I think it's a big challenge for studios to create guidelines that will protect their own employees from their own, workaholism issues, by saying, no matter what happens, 50 hours is the absolute maximum, for instance, that you can stay in the studio, and not just to the artists, but to the management, the supervisors, to everyone in the hierarchy. So everyone is sharing the same vision. There's no way you can have a director that is free to work 80 hours a week that's not somehow be super tired and unconsciously do things that will lead others to not feel guilty of not doing the same. It's just not possible. So it's a big challenge that we have in our industry for
Absolutely.
sure.
And I'm not saying, just to go back on this really quick, I wasn't trying to suggest that the studios are maliciously trying to do this. I mean, some egomaniacs that drive companies, they might be building cultures like that because they might believe that that's how you succeed, is by having a team, like an army of people that are just going to like drive themselves into oblivion in order to be the best. But I feel like studios like that often eventually they have like a studio burnout. It's like the morale of the studio drops so low that it's like it's like the studio is burnt out in a way. Like karmically, they're depleted. And I've seen this before, and these studios have a hard time. They end up having to almost completely refresh their staff in order to recharge, but then they just go right back and hit the wall again, because the same person who's driving the studio, it comes like David said last night, this kind of cultural stuff, it starts at the top and it trickles its way down, right? It's like the person who runs the place is the one who everyone's going to emulate in some way, because they are signaling the way that they want their studio to be run. I really, that idea about the school, it's funny. And it's amazing that it never occurred to me until you said that like, unfortunately, because the industry is like this, schools prepare people for that. And so we're literally teaching people, we're normalizing it. We're normalizing this idea of workaholism and this idea of where the priorities, you're not the priority. The production is the priority. When in reality, how can the production be the priority if you're not taking care of yourself? Like it's crazy if you think about it. And it's true. I mean, I went to Sheridan College. It was like that. I mean, it was even a kind of a thing of pride. These schools that are known as boot camps, because they're like, it's like literally trying to be a Navy SEAL. Like they put you through hell, and then the people that make it on the other side. And I've seen people burn out in these schools, and they're broken people. Like they like their love, what they felt that they wanted to animate, and they flunked out of school, not because they weren't gifted, not because they weren't dedicated, and not because they didn't love the craft, but because they didn't make it. They ran out of steam, and they had to ring that shame bell and like walk off the beach. Like it's, to me, that's sad, because it's like, how do we change an industry if we don't solve it right there at the beginning, and teach people that there's another way. There is actually another way.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
Jorge, I'm curious to know, how much did this period of time in your career had an impact on the decision to start AnimaWarrior? That used to be your own name for, narcissistic reason, as explained. But how much was it already something that you had in mind, and was just a final push that you needed? Is that something that you said, I need to stop and do something else? How did this transition happen?
Yeah.
First, and I'll be super honest. First, it was the needed to create a way of sustaining myself that would allow also my creativity to keep going, because I'm a creative person, right? So I needed to find that combination of bringing money in, but also create stuff and animate. Not necessarily animate. I'm not sure if to me animation is something that I really like, but what I'm really passionate about is creativity in general, and all the shapes of it. So the creation of AnimaWarriors was what came out, let's say, as this kind of like, okay, I think that starting to teach and starting to create a character, for example, everything actually started a little bit with the idea of, okay, I want to create my own character, the character Rick, applying a little bit of the things that I like in a character and doing animations that I like with that kind of character, and start to teach in the ways that I like to teach. So everything started to go in that direction, like step by step. It's not that at the very beginning I had the big idea of AnimaWarriors. And then when the classes were going good and the toy rig people was already familiar with it and all that, was when I realized that the next step was to create something that was collective. And that was what we are still trying to do today. I like AnimaWarriors to be an experience, or like a product of collective effort, because that's how I believe creativity is, like a healthy creativity is by the conjunction of creative individuals that pay attention to their own creative needs and creative, let's say, satisfaction in a healthy way that comes together, and out of conversations they create something together. That's how I'm understanding team creativity these days. So that's how I need to create an entity that or a body that can hold that vision together. And that's why actually it's called AnimaWarriors, because being fancy and attempting to look a very interesting person here. I can break down that AnimaWarriors basically means fighters of the creativity. Anima is the Latin word for creativity, and psychology is related to the feminine side and creativity and all that. And warriors is also another term that is used in psychology, and people that let's say that is trying to do their best to be healthy and to self-realize. So that's why we are fighters for being healthy creatives as a team together.
Awesome. That's
and
a pretty
members and students and all that. Yes, of course.
That's a pretty cool name, and it's a pretty good strategy to not have your names, so you can eventually just step out and let others carry on with the vision.
And then on another practical level, it might be a little awkward when you try to brand Jorge Vigara, and then everyone's walking around with like T-shirts that's got Jorge Vigara on it. Like I would do it, I would wear it. It would be kind of weird that people would be calling me Jorge whenever I walk around. But I mean, it's cool. I mean, it might just be a little bit weird.
It would be a little bit weird. Overall, I mean, I wouldn't mind actually if they managed to say my last name properly. Vigara, that would be fantastic.
Hey,
but
is that some sort of slight against me in my inability to say people's names properly? Have you been watching the other shows? You think it's funny? I take it personally. It's difficult. It's hard being me. My disability of speaking names.
It's interesting how you mentioned that creativity is involved in creating a business, because it's right. At the end of the day, it's not animation, but you start with nothing and eventually you have something. So, what is the name? What is the logo? What does the website look like? What is the first character rig that we're going? And all of those are very very creative things that you have to do. Is there any gap in between what you thought would be needed to start a school and a business and how it actually was for you?
Oh, so many things, man.
Where to begin?
Where to begin? The first thing that comes into my mind is all the financial decisions, financial needs, the budgeting, the keeping all the numbers good, so that everybody can be paid properly, yourself, but everybody who work with you, everything around financial management. That was for me like, what are you talking about? Do I have to do numbers of all this? Are you kidding me? Do I have to really go down to the day that this app comes in? When to me it was just a number, something that was going through my bike account, and I didn't know anything too much about it.
Yeah.
That, for example, that was a big thing. I don't know how you guys manage that, because I know that you've been working with Agora and all that, but I'm still learning every day about how bad I've been doing numbers in my company.
Yeah. I mean, for us, that's something that day one I said, no, I'm not going to do this part. I'm going to find someone that, if not enjoy the process, at least being competent to handle this process. So that's something I said, okay, I have my own skills and experience and strength. It's not with money. I'm going to let someone else deal with that.
Yeah.
Just give me an overview. Just let me know, or can we still pay everyone? Yeah, for how long?
Yeah,
okay,
that's
all I want to know. That's all I need to know.
I actually, that's something that I studying AnimaWarriors. That's something that I tried to do for the very beginning, but bringing somebody in, and that didn't work out pretty well. So eventually, at some point, I have to jump in myself and do it. So for some reason, life said, nope, this is something that you have to improve, my friend.
It's your penance.
Yes,
that's the price you have to pay.
Yes. So that's one of the things that nobody tells you about building businesses and all that. Right. Paying attention to those aspects.
Yeah, when you think about starting a business, usually you think about the either the fun part or the part that you that you think that you're going to enjoy, but you don't know what you don't know. There are so many things that you have no idea that you'll have to deal with, and when you have to deal with them, it's usually too late to stop because you've been already working for a few weeks or a few months on, and it's like, okay, I just need to deal with this. So it's resilience is probably the number one quality that anyone either starting a business or working on your own branding. Some days you'll be super inspired and motivated, and other days you will literally prefer to, do anything other than what you have to do. And if you don't do it, no one's going to do it for you. And guess what? You're going to think about it, that you have to do it tomorrow. And so it's just going to be worse. How do you see AnimaWarrior evolve from here? Or at least how would you hope that it evolves in the upcoming years?
Well, to be honest, we are in a moment that, at least I think this week, we have become the AnimaWarriors that I wanted it to be 3 years ago when I said boom. Because part of when I was thinking about it first time, talking to people, starting to build things up, there was one main concept that I wanted to do, and there was two. One was the possibility to teach animation from the creative perspective, from the skill sets, building up the skill sets with like an intense kind of like teaching, and that's the full training program, which is something that we launched very recently, and we didn't have the capacity to do that till very recently because we were working in just doing small classes, small, something that we could build up till the moment of that we could that we can offer something that is more rigid, let's say, that really embodies what we want the people to learn from us. And the other thing was the concept of learning by streaming services, by subscription, in which people just, affordable and a flexible way, people just can learn about animation. Because myself, and I think that lots of people in the industry can tell how expensive it is to just get a glimpse of what it means to animate, right? And I'm happy to see, and something that I've been learning is that schools right now, they're catching up. Technology is starting to be part of the schools every day, so people can start, or kids can start to practice animation and to do digital art now in the schools, which is fantastic. But even though it's still a big commitment, you have to guess that that's something that you want to do, and you have to pay a lot of money, right? So I always wanted to make AnimaWarriors a platform flexible and accessible for people to choose their own path to learn the way they want to learn, either if it's with a rigid and a long-term program like the one we have, or just by exploring videos, doing it by yourself while you do other things, streaming, which is a similar concept of what you guys do also with Agora.Community.
So sorry, I'm interested to know more about it. So what is this new streaming service? So basically what is provided, and what is the difference in the payment model than the usual enrollment? So
till now, these days, what we've been doing is we've been offering our online courses, like pre-recorded on demand. You can just buy one, for example, and you have it lifetime. And it comes with, some of them comes with assignments, access to some perks, like open feedback. We offer the possibility to the people to come a couple of times a month and show their work and talk to the teachers. And this time is me. So it comes, let's say that the online course pre-recorded, when you buy it per se, is more expensive, and it comes with several perks, benefits for people, but only centered in that particular course, right?
It's like an a la carte. It's a singular course, like say creature animation, for instance, or something like that, or animating like really cartoony characters. Like it's a course, one single class. Okay.
Correct. And you have it. You can always come back and you can do it at the time that you want to do it.
Okay.
But with the subscription mode, basically what we have is that you can access all the online courses that we have done for the moment. But it doesn't come with all those perks. It doesn't come with assignments. It doesn't come with the possibility of certifications.
So it lacks the interactivity, like as far as like be able to back and forth, like it's passive learning on your own at your own time.
That's correct. That's correct. So basically, what we're trying to do is to capture, let's say, the spectrum of the different rhythms or ways to learn that people may have. Some people may need something that is more passive, more flexible. So that's why the streaming mode. And some people may really want to go in deep, go all the way in, get 3 years of learning, and boom, you have the other. The full training program, for example, something that is more dedicated.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
And in terms of, do you see some students that, because when you have an online school, you also by default building a little community, in between the instructors and the students and all that. Do you see some communal project or some project that students get together to work? Is that something that, would be interesting to encourage among your pool of students?
Yeah. That's let's say that's the next dream that we have. Now that more or less we are starting to beta testing the streaming mode and all that, the creative mind always goes to the next thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
So one of the things that we would like to find a way when let's say this learning part of this learning side of AnimaWarriors is well established and people is happy and everybody in the team is satisfied and the students are good, is to find a way to create let's say some platform that allows the creation in teams or allows the individual creativity. And this can go in many directions. I have this conversation many times, but it's always the same. Like we can go in so many ways because today you can create in such a different ways teamwork and not teamwork, and get let's say an exchange out of that. Because the goal would be, of course, what we really would love to do eventually is to facilitate creative freedom, so people can work the way they want to work and get money out of it.
Yeah.
So these days they're growing now with the remote world, with the concept of the tokens, with the remote working and being able to bring people together and do short films. Unreal is catching up, so that means the production stems are probably getting shorter and shorter. So we can start to create more, more like together. It's going in a very interesting direction.
Yeah.
How it's going to happen, I don't really know that.
Yeah, you're talking. There's many schools that kind of prepare students to be production ready, basically making sure that this little box is going to fit exactly in the hole that the industry has created. So, is there an aspect of it? What would be AnimaWarrior version of this kind of being production ready, and how would it differ from the traditional way of?
I have exactly the same question.
I don't really know. I don't really know, because honestly, I believe that this has to be a question that everybody involved in the team right now in AnimaWarriors would have to sit together and talk about it. I may have some ideas, and of course, because I'm the director and all that, I will be the one saying, "No, we're gonna be doing this." But eventually, I would like this to be something that is like commonly created, because I think that's important. I think it's important that whatever happens, it has to come a little bit, at least by a conversation of the main heads around AnimaWarriors. If you ask me, I have many times the dream of what I propose, which is basically a farm, or sometimes I have this idea of having a beautiful studio farm with this tiny little, or like a village there is like food, people growing food outside. If they don't want to do animation, they can go growing food, they can do meditation, whatever, taking care of cows, taking care of horses or dogs or something. And eventually gathering together when the synergy is good, and creating something together, for example. That's That was me.
That's crazy. I know why David's making a funny face right now because we often, when we talk about Agora.Community, we have exactly the same vision. This idea, he uses the term village, you just use the term farm, but I guess at the same time, it's the same thing, right? It's like, can you support all these different versions of creativity and even different crafts and the different parts of it, like to the point where you're just a place where people can go to safely learn with collaborative people that are in the same wavelength as you, as opposed to the workaholic wavelength. You're more of a, hey, can we just sort of like take our time and enjoy this process by any chance?
Yeah, hey? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be nice. Wouldn't it be nice? I'd like to live there. If we could build, can we make a planet like that? Not just a farm or a village. And then we just, maybe we move there.
But Brent, I think that actually is happening. It's fantastic that we are having this conversation right now here, and that, you guys being so far away, and we don't know each other from so long ago. But I have been having similar conversations with people throughout the last few years. Something is going on. I don't think we need to move to a different planet. I think it will happen. Overall, with this explosion of the remote systems and the new pipelines that are starting to show up with the new backends and all that.
Yeah. True.
We're going somewhere nice.
Yeah, we're building a new world as right now, like, and it's up to the people. Like, we can build it the way we want, right? Or we can let the same people who built the broken world build it back up the same way. We have an opportunity to maybe build an alternate version of the universe that doesn't suck people in and chew them up and spit them back out the other side.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Yeah, I think there's two main aspects that is slowly giving more power into the hands of the artist rather than the corporation, or however you want to call it. First of all, there really is an abundance of work because everything is going digital. I mean, VFX, video game, animated feature, new VR world that we're going to live in, name it. I mean, digital artists are in high demand. So, that's, offer and demand is kind of playing a little bit in our favor here. And now with the remote freelancing that just gained like a decade with the pandemic, it means that now artists that might have the choice of 3 or 4 studios in their city now have literally all thousands of studios that they can choose from. So there's a power shift right now towards more of the artists that I've been observing for a couple of years, but in the last year, it just crazy accelerated. I think one of the things that makes your work miserable if you do the same repetitive, uncreative task for a long period of time. If we can create an ecosystem that is going to allow where, first of all, there's all of those different projects, which one do you feel that you're most interested in, and that's going to allow you to grow as an artist? And even within those projects, create system that, okay, as you said, maybe sometime you go take care of the garden a little bit, or you bring the food, all that. In animation, that would be, well, we have this task and this task and this. What would you prefer to do? What would be your top 3? Okay, and then we kind of have algorithms that's going to compare everyone and can kind of use a little bit of AI to assign all of those different tasks in a way that will fulfill more those artists. So I think those were very utopic idea a few years ago, and now you realize that no, it doesn't mean that it's going there, but we have everything to in line right now to allow it to go there.
Yeah. Definitely. I didn't think about of how the IA also is going to be a huge thing in the next few years in management.
Yeah, it's funny because IA, we often have these ideas, oh my God, those digital robots are going to replace us and be the artist. And like, well, in one parallel universe, yeah, maybe, but there's another universe that it can actually help to bring happiness to everyone who's working by helping management team that are, that it's a big challenge to just deliver on time. So employees' happiness, unfortunately, is number 5 on the list of priorities. And way before that, you have, efficiency and all that. But maybe AI is actually going to do a better job than, an entire management team, or at least support them properly to distribute the work in a way that all your production floor is going to be happier with what they have to do. Who knows? That'd be great.
Yeah, it's all about how we use it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fantastic tool. It's true. It's a double-sided sword. Is that the proper English term? sword.
Double-edged sword, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Double-edged sword. Yes, like you can use it very bad.
I know it's a hard one to pronounce. I'm with you.
Sorry, double-edged.
You Latin-based speakers are cute.
We're trying.
Yeah. But you know what? We could turn the tides, and we could just see how awkward it gets if you spoke Spanish and French, because then I would just fall apart in little bitty pieces. So
and we have the excuses that it's our second language. So
well, that's my point.
Each time you're struggling on a word, you know, what's your excuse?
Yeah, I don't have one. That's the problem. When I try to pronounce people's names, I got nothing.
Brent, we're usually super late to go to the chat question. How about we try not to be more than 6 minutes late?
Yeah, I think we could do that. I think we covered all of the things. Naturally, there's going to be some questions that are going to come up that will dig a little deeper into some of the things that we already talked about. Let me just scan up and just really quickly, Chad. I had made a message to everybody a little while ago. Just if you do have a question, we were taught yesterday by some clever people in chat that putting Q and colon in front of everything, or even question colon all in capitals, it makes it a lot easier to pull them out, because it's hard to distinguish like conversation versus or comment versus question. So if you have a question, please put a Q colon or question colon right in front. I'll see it, preferably all in caps.
Did you just struggle on distinguished?
I did.
Okay.
Thanks for noticing.
Distinguished.
So here's a good one, because this talks a little bit about the vicious circle people find themselves in, which is really, and from what I've heard and even my own experience, definitely one of the main ingredients to really fully burning out. This idea of, you know, as you start to kind of fatigue, you are going to be less productive, right? And like, what does that mean? So the question is, how have you felt? How have you felt guilty when you weren't producing work as well as possible because you had to focus on your mental health? If so, how did you handle that?
That's interesting.
Yeah, because you know what I mean. Like it requires you to say, I need to stop, and I need to be okay with that, because I need to work on fixing what's going on, as opposed to just grinding yourself into oblivion because you just keep like going deeper and deeper into that sort of that debt, you know?
Yeah, well, luckily or unfortunately, that wasn't my issue. My issue was that I had to keep pushing to stop, because I have a tendency to keep going and to create. So. Okay.
So you weren't becoming less productive. You weren't allowing yourself to be, which was part of the problem, I guess.
Yeah. My problem was that I was producing too much.
Right.
I was all the time, we're doing this, doing that.
Right.
I have an interesting take on this one, because if I put myself to a moment of professional exhaustion, and at the time I had no idea what was going on. I felt, fatigue, extreme lack of motivation, especially on Mondays, lack of inspiration, inability to concentrate for a long period of time, and all those things that you're like, what's going on? And I just started to rely. Now, okay, I was in a director position. Obviously, it's way different when you're in a artist, either junior, mid-level, or senior. But basically, I just started to rely much more on the team. I started to delegate work that I would usually handle myself. So it was this part of recognizing that, okay, I don't know what's going on. It might be professional exhaustion, but I definitely do not function at the top of my ability. I'm not going to try to fight it. I'm just going to delegate as much as I can and explain to everyone why I have to delegate this, and this. And at the end of the day, it was the best thing, because when I eventually came back after, I would say maybe a 3 months period to, peak performance, I had already delegated a lot. A lot of people on my team took more responsibility, which made the following production much easier. And it was something that they were more than happy to handle. So sometimes, you can turn a situation into a positive. You never thought that you could delegate this. You had to, and then you realize that it was the best thing to do anyway.
Yeah.
So, feeling guilty, it's a tough. It's so personal. I mean, there's some people that are completely narcissistic and nothing is about is their fault and they're not feeling guilty about anything. And on the other extreme, you have those that victimize themselves, and any situation that is even totally out of their control, somehow they will feel guilty about it. So it's just to find the right balance. If you think yourself that you are in this situation that you need to take a break, just be transparent, communicate with transparency, but at some point you don't have to care about other people's judgment. It is what it is, and you know what is best for you. If you feel guilt, you need to work on yourself, maybe meditate a little bit, and that's a different issue, I think, that you might have to deal with.
Yeah, that's a very good. I would highlight the thing of the communication, because it's one of the things that I've seen around that it lacks. And we don't teach, even in this industry or in the schools, how to communicate properly. Well, first, it's good that we're having this conversation, because we're normalizing that these kind of things happens. So once that you are aware of that, communicate. I think that's very key.
I hope it's going to be in the curriculum of getting artist production ready to talk about this. If this happens, here's how you should, and maybe have therapists even come in just to explain, here's our the signs, here's how to behave in this situation, here's how to be respectful, but respect yourself first, here's how to be professional, because otherwise you just have no idea how to deal with that situation, especially absolutely. If you're in a junior mid-level position and you don't want to lose your job, then it's just the worst.
But I would say, let's not wait, please, till the studios decide to bring a therapist in. That's another thing that I would add to what you were saying. Like, if somebody, or if you're going to some kind of mental issue thing, if you're aware of it, apart from communicating and all that, just reach out for help. It's not bad. Yeah. We have to also help normalize people that is nothing bad happening, really. We all go through mental issues at certain points in our life, and asking for help to therapists or psychologists or something that feels right on your alley and your taste in personal work is key.
Yeah, I think there's a stigma that, what we call mental issues, but it might not be the right term, but it's basically that, your brain does not function at peak performance. And sometimes there's either a guilt, or it's a little bit taboo, and people feel like it's a weakness. But, if your car makes a weird sound and you speak to the garage, you're not going to feel weird about it. You're just going to go and take the time to repair it, and that's it. It's just to be recognized that the brain is a complicated machine. There's a lot of different things going on. There's neurons and there's hormones and all that, and it can be unbalanced for many reasons, and you just need to get it fixed. Don't feel bad about it.
Yep. Yeah, but I think the one of the biggest problems is that the idea of burnout is a close cousin to mental illness. And I'm not trying to make a direct comparison here, but it is the part of our body, the brain. Unfortunately, society has stigmatized people that are having problems with that part because you can't see it. Someone breaks their leg, it's like, oh man, that's so bad. You got a cast. How long are you going to be out for? Someone says, oh, I'm on a burnout, or I'm, I have some other mental sort of like a depression, or who knows?
So you mean that you're just lazy, right?
Yes. Well, that's exactly it. That's the problem. It's immediately what happens, unfortunately, is that there's a stigma associated with it. I mean, mental health professionals have been trying to fight against this for years. It's why Bell here in Canada has the sort of the mental health awareness days, and people are supposed to just freely talk about it. But it is awkward, and I think it's because it scares people. This idea of not really, and so that there's that weird, like, people tend to be a bit more negative. Like, it's not, broken bones are they sound painful. I've never had one, knock on wood, but it seems like something that's not pleasant, but it doesn't scare us in the same way that mental sort of mental problems actually does. It really, I think, affects us in a negative way. So there's just this stigma associated with it. So I think that's the biggest problem, is people don't want to admit it, that they have to go to the dealership to, like, it's like getting something really awkward checked at the doctor. And I'm sure many people have lots of stories. There's some things that you might hold off on telling the doctor about just because it's awkward and you don't want to talk about it. Sad, really, but
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I always recommend that a little bit of culture around it is very good.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
being open about it.
Yeah, being open. First, let's talk about it, because there's nothing is nothing bad to talk about this. And the same way that you learn about, as you were saying, your car, I would bring it a little bit closer, because I don't know anything about cars. I decided not to know anything about cars. But I think that we should, in this conversation, we should know about cars. Or another way to say, the same way that you learn about what's healthy food, healthy habits, things that makes your life better, and how does your whole emotional and mental experience work, are very important to know.
Yeah.
And we are not familiar with that. We don't live in a culture that enhance that kind of emotional culture or mental culture. So reading about those things and getting close to these aspects are also very good to lose the fear, to lose the stigma, and realize that is burning out or stress or my fear, my anxiety, my laziness is not that bad. It's not, but we have to work it out.
Absolutely, because ignoring it is the problem. Like David said, if you hear a strange noise in your car, don't go on a road trip. You know what I mean? Like, go get it checked, because honestly, if you ignore these things, it's not going to get better on its own. I had a burnout. I'll save that for another story, because I want to get to some of these other questions. But I experienced my own version of a burnout, and it was very different. And I'm actually kind of happy it happened to me early in my life, because now I know what that feels like, and I have the warning signs happen a little earlier, and I can try to avoid it. But I think we should probably have a whole talk just on this one day. Next question I have for you. I want to pull one from here we go. There's one from Sergey. Hey, Jorge, sorry. How did the immigration, including the desire to stay in the country where you want to work, added or not to the overall burnout? And how do you feel far from home? And how do you feel far from home for a long time? Thank you. So in other words, is the idea of distance from your family and where you grew up a contributing factor to that level of it could have had something to do with it?
No, actually, it was the opposite. I don't really want to get too much into psychological stuff, even though I love that shit, as you can probably see. But no, actually, it helped me in a different direction. It helped me to heal. Because basically separate myself from the issues that were coming from my family, the culture that I work. It's like brand new scenario around my life. So that was what I needed in order to clear out and realize, oh, look at everything that. It's not that I'm blaming my history there, and it's not that I'm blaming, but living in that situation with everything that had in my original country was keeping me and going in circles. I needed to clean that out.
That environment was part of the cocktail, the toxic cocktail that was sort of negatively affecting you in a way. So you're removing that. Like from like a cancer, removing it from your life, you could finally feel a little bit of freedom from that negativity, I guess.
Yeah, or the cork. I would say it's like the cork that I have.
The cork. Okay.
And then remove my cork, and then things can go out.
That makes sense. That's interesting to think of it like that. It's like that was the main blocker. That was like the main thing. You deal with this, then you could start the path of healing, I guess. Yeah. So for some people, maybe it would be very different. You know, maybe people who do have positive experiences with their home and their family life, that might have made, that could be a contributing factor for sure. For people,
of course,
because so many people do live far away from where they grew up, because, you know, if you happen to be born in a country or even a city or a state that doesn't really have an industry, you're going to move. You're going to move because if you love it, you're going to travel to where the work is. So I've seen a lot of people, they burn out because they just miss their family too much. We have a lot of people from France here in Quebec for obvious reasons, because it's a French-speaking province. So naturally, if you're going to move to Canada, why not move to Quebec? Like, it makes sense, right? And a lot of them, they stay here for a couple of years. They really like it, but it's like being far away from their family for too long is too much to take. They usually move back. Not always, but a lot of them do. I'm going to bring a question from, because before we have these streams, our community manager, Scott, he ends up sending out a lot of posts about the chat, and people have quite a chance to ask questions ahead of time. So I have a couple here I wouldn't mind tackling here to make sure that we get that properly represented in the conversation. I'm just copy and pasting it. Give me a second. There it is. And here we go. So this question is from Coon Animates. How do you plan for your shot? What kind of this is changing changing completely away from the previous topic. But that's fine. What kind of resources and inspiration do you look for when you're just planning? Like, what is the Jorge sort of recipe for inspiration on a shot? Yeah, and you get 10 seconds and go.
And
it's so easy, right? Yeah.
No. I think what I do mainly is to first, many times I let my inner mind to speak to me and to see things, so that I follow that many times, which I can see that is the look for fun. Many times is okay. How would I do that in a way that is fun? Because that's something that I've been trying to do every time that I do something or whatever I create. So whatever the system I use is for the sake of enjoying it. So it may be maybe like taking a video reference, or maybe doing thumbnailings. But what is important to me is that I stay in my personal way to be, and I try to have fun and come out with ideas without restriction, because it's planning at the end. No, if you don't get dirty when you are planning and when you come and play and you try these different things, when are you going to do it? Because things as the shot overall progresses, right, things are starting to get more rigid, and you have to. So for me, probably I would say the planning is the most, if not the most, the closest, the most creative part of the process, where I'm aiming for 200% of creative satisfaction, and that comes definitely with a sense of fun.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. The idea of like, when are you going to do it otherwise? And I think a lot of animators are guilty of just going with the first idea and then animating. And then there's a momentum behind it. You start getting into the splines, and then it's like, there's no way I'm going to go change those base poses now because I've already invested too much time. And it's like, it's now or never. It's like think of like how concept artists, like when you take a look at an art of like a Pixar, DreamWorks movie, and you look at these beautiful art books and you look at the concept part, and it's like, they really explored in very different directions just to really try to make sure they'd landed on something that was fresh, that felt like a good fit for the project. They tried things, they experimented. And so animators should think the same way at the beginning of the shot when they're planning. Like, what are the ways, right?
Like being a kid, no? Sometimes
be a kid. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, just play, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing it back to having fun, right? Like you just we started this whole conversation with like, how do you find the fun again? And that would be part of it for sure.
Yeah. Brett, we have a pretty interesting question from Pilar that I think that could bring a lot of value, because we've been talking a lot about it, but most people that didn't went through it might have no idea what
I saw that question, but I felt like we already answered it. Didn't we? Like, what does it feel like? What are the symptoms of burnout? Yeah. This one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we did. Didn't we? Didn't we already cover that? Like what were the signs that you were burning out? I don't know. I mean, like, we can talk about it.
That's my personal way of feeling burnout. That doesn't mean that everybody has to feel burnout.
Okay, well, David.
I think it's good to go in the specific. I'll go first, and I'd like to compare with you guys, because it is very specific. And before you went through it, it's, to me, there's like 3 levels. When we say work exhaustion, for me, it's like level 1. It is what I think I experienced. Then burnout would be a level above that, and then like depression would be the 3rd level. So what I think is experience is like the number 1 level of. First of all, it started overnight, like literally the day after we delivered the project. Adrenaline kept me like, ongoing for many months, and literally within 24 hours the first symptom kicked in. The first thing is like immune system just gone. I had a mild cold that lasted for at least 2 months, and I'm usually never sick. Cold. Like, I have one small cold every other year for 2 days, and that's it. This one just didn't want to go anywhere.
Are you sure that you're not COVID-19 patient 0? I'm just saying.
That was way before enough, so to not be really.
Is it too early? Is that too early? We can't make COVID-19 jokes yet? Okay, my bad.
Maybe. I would say no concentration. the brain fog, however we want to describe it, but not being able to concentrate on anything more than 5-10 seconds was another thing. The constant fatigue. No, you get up in the morning and you feel that you're still tired. You don't feel that you're well rested. And the no motivation, which means that you have a lack of dopamine. You don't look forward to accomplish the stuff. The motivation that you usually get from that just seems to have disappeared. And the inspiration. I mean, usually you're like, okay, I brainstorm. I have a lot of good ideas. Now I just have nothing. I'm looking at a blank page and there's just no new ideas that are coming in. So, and all this kind of contribute to a lack of enjoyment of life in general. This is like, if you can sum it up at level 1, you can imagine that depression is like way more. But for me, this is what it looked like. And before you go through it, you have no idea what it actually does feel like. I don't know for you, Jorge, how it felt.
The more or less what I commented before was something similar, like the mental fog, the body pains. I think that when you go through burning out, there's like a general pain, like mentally pain, emotional pain, and body pain. How this is manifested, like people getting sick, like you, for example, can happen. If it goes and expands beyond your body, you can see how your relationships can also start to get affected, your work relationships as well. So, but I think it's a good sum up what you've done. Like it goes in your own experience, and it's foggy. It's painful and it's foggy.
Yeah, I think this is why for me it's important to put specifically what it feels like. So in the audience, if you feel anything of what we've been described for many days in a row, ask yourself if you've been pushing a little bit too much the engine.
It's a good point. It's like you don't know where the breaking point is until you get there, and if you can if you can at least hear these words and like see them as sort of a cautionary tale, so that you can maybe take action. I mean, my personal experience, I didn't think I was going to be talking about it today, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it really quickly. Basically, it was very weird. It was sudden, like kind of like overnight, the way that you described it in a way, David. But with hindsight, I should have seen it coming a bit more, because I was getting these weird moments. I'll never forget the first moment that I, looking back on it now, that I knew that I was going through something, is I was in a meeting. I was teaching at a college at the time, and we were having a faculty meeting. In the middle of the meeting, I'll never forget it, I was looking down at my feet while I was listening to someone talking about the plan for the next year. And it suddenly felt like I was like, because you could talk about like mental fog, but it was like that, but like the kind of mental fog you have when you're inebriated. It felt like this. It was sudden. I was suddenly completely like that weird fog you get when you're drunk, or you're under some sort of substance. That is how it felt. And it was weird because I was nowhere near a bar. I was in the middle of the day. I hadn't had a drink in forever. There was nothing going through my body. So why do I suddenly feel like this? And it was almost like I had a bit of a buzz too. It was like a buzzing feeling. And I was like, okay. And then it was kind of almost amusing at first. And then I started to panic because it was like not wearing off. And I remember walking home in this weird state of like feeling like I was in this weird glass vial, and like the people around me, I felt like I didn't connect with them. I felt like I know now I was going through some sort of thing that people will just, I think they would describe it as disassociation. Somehow my brain was disassociating from my own reality, and I was almost like looking in on myself. And I went to bed and thinking, oh, maybe I just need some sleep. I woke up still feeling like that. And eventually it wore off, and I don't know why. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe it's just something I ate. But it happened again one day at work. And when it happened, it hit even harder. And David said, you were looking at the screen looking for motivation at work. I looked at the screen. I was looking at Maya. I didn't understand what the buttons did. I'm not even kidding. I was looking at the same software that I looked at for years and years, and I couldn't tell you. I'm like, I need to animate the shot, but I don't even know how I even start animating. I don't remember where you get the files. I don't remember. And I just looked around. I looked at my buddy that was sitting next to me. His name is Bruno. He will only remain Bruno because I don't want to drag him into this. And he looked at me and I said, he's like, you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. And he looked at me. He was like an angel. I swear to you. He looked at me dead in the eye and he said, you need to leave and you need to go do something that Brent George wants to do. You need to go, don't do any work. Don't even think about work today. Just go. He looked at me with these eyes of understanding, like he saw in my eyes something that he had gone through before. And he just was like, you got to go do it. I immediately walked out that door. I caught the next bus to go home and visit my family. On the way home, that feeling melted away from me. But it was the beginning of the, it was still, I wasn't out of it. It got a lot darker and I was able to dig my way out of that hole, but that's how it started for me. It was this weird disassociation. I felt disconnected from everything, including my job, including everybody around me. It was very, very scary.
That's the amazing and scary thing with the brain. When everything goes right, you don't even notice that it's there. It's just your perception of reality is just normal. And then there's this unbalance. Is it hormone? Is it what it is? Is it the connection between I don't know what it is, but when something, weird happens, like, wait, what? What is this? It can be pretty scary when it happens out of nowhere.
It can, absolutely, because you just feel, and you start to worry, am I going to feel normal again?
No, exactly, normal? Because you have no idea. Is my motivation going to ever come again? Am I going to be able to enjoy work ever
Lots
again?
Of self-doubt, absolutely. And the only way back is to take a moment for yourself. That's like the only way, and allow yourself to want to go back to work. And this goes back to that question about, did you feel, was guilt a factor in not being as productive? Some people, unfortunately, are not in a position, or they don't work for a company where they can take enough time off to repair. And that's another problem, right? Going back to the stigma of it all, it's like, how do you know? It's like if someone had pneumonia and they were in the hospital for 2 weeks, work is going to understand. But are they going to understand if you need time to repair from a mental burnout? Depends on who you work for.
Yes, that's true. I think things are changing because we're having this conversation now, and it's little by little is coming up, and it's becoming a thing. And I can see. I've been talking to people who is bringing up. Myself, I brought it up, and I couldn't work it with people. But that same thing is like at least communicate. That's why same thing we said before. When you feel that it's happening, communicate to people. So that can help you to create a better environment.
Absolutely. It starts with the conversation. It starts by being open about it, right? I mean, because even if you are in a situation where you can't take the time, I got some news for you. You're going to have to find a way. The only way out of it is to do it. And it may seem impossible to take the time, but what's the alternative? Completely breaking? What?
But I would say something that is important to keep in mind. When you're in that situation, you're going to see most probably you're going to see that there is no way out. There is no way I can talk to because you're going to feel that way. You're of course you're going to think that no matter what, most probably you are in a negative, let's say, perspective, or you have a negative vision. So that's why you have to step away from that and not follow that negativity, and hope that by talking about it, because it happened. People, if you are honest about it, most probably people are going to feel it, that you are going through something, and that can open the door. So it's good to observe the possibility that when you're in a situation like that, your vision and the possibility to heal it may look bad.
Exactly. Your judgment is being affected, unfortunately.
Your judgment is being affected as well. So just better start to talk about it and ask for help.
And maybe try to remember this conversation we just had and know that you're not alone. And there are other people out there probably sitting around you that have experienced it. They may not talk about it, but they probably have. And so you have to accept it and just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to choose to walk towards it. Not the other one, not that light at the end of the tunnel, the one that the positive one. It means getting better and Jeez, is it hot in here?
Good that you specify that one.
Don't walk towards the light. The other one, the other light. Jesus, trying to be inspirational. I failed. So we're out of time. It's 5 minutes afterwards. Time does fly during these. It's crazy that an hour and a half can go by so quickly, but it's a symptom of a good conversation and awesome human beings. So thank you very much, Jorge, for being here. Honestly, it means a lot to everybody. It means a lot to David and I, the entire community, that you would take time out of your day, and also to take time to talk about personal things. Like you put it out there, right? Like not everyone's comfortable to do that, and I think it requires brave people to speak out so that other people can learn from that, because it's wisdom and self-appreciation and self-care comes from, just being told to do it. And sometimes
we all have to talk about these things.
We have to. We absolutely have to. And I'm inspired that you're building a school. Literally, I like to think of it more like a church. A church.
No.
It's a farm.
Yeah. Well,
let's say a farm.
Village, farm, church. At the end of the day, I mean, my point is that it is a new way of thinking about things, and why not teach people at the beginning to think like that, so that they can start expecting that from other companies. And I think that's interesting because, as David said, as we're rebuilding the new reality that we live in, this new production reality, and with a lot of those borders being torn down, a lot of people have also, because a lot of people touched depression over the last couple of years, for sure. It doesn't, there's nothing quite like a pandemic and a lockdown globally. People aren't allowed to travel, see family, go out to a bar and hang out with friends. Like, these things have taken its toll. And so people have gotten a lot more close to the darker side of their personalities. And I think that because of that, they're looking for something, a better life, a work-life balance. Mm-hmm. I think they've had time maybe to think about it a bit more. And this industry's been proven that it can make that flexibility happen. So I think, as I keep saying it over and over again, there are some dinosaurs in this nuclear winter that are not going to survive. They're going to go extinct. Some of these companies that do not adapt, and because you got a market of people that want it, we got people like Jorge, they're teaching people from the beginning to expect it, to demand it. Mm. And we have a means. We have the technical means to make it happen. Now the will is there. We have to move towards it, really. So you know what? Honestly,
there's studios as well, like you guys, that are working towards like that as well.
Exactly. Naturally, there are people that are building places that the people can go and work. They're going to be proactive, and they're going to be thinking the same thing, because they want to build a new place to work that's like that. So I think with all of these things and people talking about it, maybe together we can build that new world together. So thank you for being part of that, Jorge.
Thank you, guys. Also, I'd like to say that what the work that you guys have been doing is fantastic. In many ways, not just as a studio and the philosophy that I'm knowing that there's behind the studio, also as a community, and with this kind of events and spaces for people to talk about these things is super, super helpful for everybody. So I think that you guys are doing a huge contribution to the industry in general, but also in general to the culture of the world that we live in.
And what the best part is? We're having fun while we're doing it.
Yeah. What would be the point otherwise?
You see what I did there? I framed the whole conversation. Oh my
God. They're brutal.
You redeemed yourself from the super dark.
Thank you.
Well done, bro.
Okay. Well, I'll see you guys later. Hopefully we'll see you around here, Jorge. Your energy is always appreciated. So you're amazing. Have an amazing rest of your day out in the West Coast. Your beautiful scenery. He showed me his scenery from his desk the other day to make me jealous, and it made me jealous. Yes. So enjoy that for all of us, and I'll see you both on the next one. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
That was great.
Bye.
Okay, well, another conversation with, and yet another amazing hour and a half that flew by in a heartbeat. So hopefully you learned something from this. We really put a lot of our dirty laundry out there today to talk a little bit about a very touchy subject that a lot of people don't know how to talk about. So we're hoping that if we are going to be just dumping out there, that you feel comfortable talking about it with the people that you care about. I think that if we encourage people and to be open about this and not suffer in silence like so many people do, maybe we can make this industry a little safer to be in. Because I mean, I've had burnout myself. I've also had employees that are definitely going through things that are difficult, and it's not easy either way. But I tell you one thing: we're in it together, right? As a human race, at the very least, and maybe a bit more specifically in this small family that we consider animation. I think we need to support each other and make sure that that we look out for each other and make sure that people know that it's okay. And that that people need to take time and take care of themselves, because it's not worth it. It's the one thing I can tell you right now. It is not worth it pushing yourself beyond that limit and maybe even souring the entire industry and like this craft that you love so much. It could turn, because your body and your mind have a way of, building allergic reactions to things that are unhealthy. If your animation career ends up being an emotionally and intellectually unhealthy for you, you might lose your grip on it, because you it's just as a defense mechanism. So you gotta, if you love it that much, you gotta learn to let go a little bit. Okay, so I think that on that big, deep, profound note, I'm going to see everyone on the next one. As a little reminder, Sunday evening, we are doing our 10:30 p.m. Live review stream on my channel, which is at over_animated on Twitch TV. You can also find us at Agora.Community/live. These are the community reviews that we're doing as a kind of a prototype. If you want to be part of this, you'll need to, I think it's Wednesday today, isn't it? Is it Wednesday today? Yeah, it's Wednesday today. So you still have time, I think. If you take a look at Instagram and Facebook, Scott has been putting out a Google form that you can fill out to submit your work and your candidacy to be nominated as somebody being reviewed. It's always random, so it is a lottery. Put your name in. If you don't win one week and you still want to do it, put your name in the next week. We're going to keep doing it over and over and over again. So look for that and fill it out. Scott's not in chat right now, so he's not going to be the handy person he usually is to drop that link, but you'll find it. Trust me. So, and if you missed your chance to do that, then come out and hang out and join the conversation as we take a look at this stuff together. It's always a blast taking a look at people taking their steps towards self-improvement in this very complicated and very thing. Oh, look at you guys. I love you guys. Thanks for that. Yeah, crab nuts and A to the J are like literally duking out for like the #1 Agora community member. I don't know, man. I don't know what you're gonna. We're gonna have to have like a knighting ceremony where you got to get knighted for the month as being like the one. So thank you. That's the forum. Go ahead and fill it out. And if you want, you can join the stream. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Q&As are always Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. That's David and I. Sometimes we bring in a special guest. And again, the Sunday, it's 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard are the streams. Have a good one. Stay animated. See you guys around.